Hello and welcome to another episode of Hurdle the Line. We are in our second of part two of our draft special, where we're doing all things draft. Um, First of all, I just want to obviously welcome everyone to the pod who's here with us. So we've got, again, the usual suspects. We've got Chapman, we've got Carl, we've got Ollie, and we've got Fletch. Boys, how are we doing today?
Hey, Sam.
Right.
Oh, we have
Good,
Sean
we're
as
good.
well.
How
My
are you?
apologies. We've got Sean as well.
Don't forget Sean.
Apologies.
I was going to say, I mean,
I know the
that's
Giants
not
are
very
Sean.
nice.
unforgettable, but let's not
Silent
let's
Giant.
not forget about Sean.
See how this is going to go.
Yes, it's because you weren't on my screen. I'm working with little visual, very few visual aids. But yes, you are there. Glad that we're all doing well. So as I said, this is our sort of second of two draft special episodes. First of all, as part of that, I just want to remind people that we are going to be doing a draft special on Twitter. So we're going to have a Twitter or X space running on the @AAW Network. So everyone's welcome to join from 11:30. That's going to be starting at 11:30 GMT or 6:30 Eastern time, whichever obviously is if you're from across the pond. So if you want to come and join us, you're by means all ready to come and join us and have a chat, and we can discuss upcoming picks, potential trades, where our team's going to be picking, the picks themselves as we go on. It's honestly open world to sort of discuss various different things.
Sam, and that space is BYOB, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, bring your own. We will not be supplying it. Unless Fletch, you've got a
You're not
special
supplying the booze. That
Listen.
sucks.
pot that you can.
I've actually, do you know what, today I was telling everybody that I've got a Popeyes opening up at the end of my road this week, and it was going to be my draft night. Like, I get paid on Thursday, draft night Popeyes, and I find out it opens at 11
Closes
a.m.
at
on
10.
Friday. I'm heartbroken that
Oh.
it's going to open a few hours after the draft.
You know what that means, though? That means 11 o'clock start straight there.
Oh yeah. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
A post day one draft. Chicken.
I discovered the one that near us is open, but it closes at 10 o'clock. So that's not good either.
Oh. Popeyes, you need to do better.
Say, look at us opening up with free advertisement for
I know.
Popeyes. That's not great. If Popeyes do want to sponsor us with some free chicken, though, we're not going to complain with that one.
Exactly. So yeah, what we'll do again with what we're doing today, we're going to start with the news. So Fletch, do you want to start us off with the news, and then we'll come on to our main segment, which is around the actual mock draft, which we did mention last week, and I'll run through all the rules with those.
Yeah, nice one, Sam. It's been as you can all imagine, as it usually is around this time of year, it's been a very slow week for news. Not much happening because of the draft on Thursday. But around this time, there are a couple of little bits that do happen. So in my own excitement, the Detroit Lions released their new uniforms this week, which I absolutely loved. In news related to it, the Lions were due to release it on Thursday at, I think it was like 7 p.m. Eastern. They were doing an event at Ford Field, and Fanatics decided to leak the uniforms at 10 a.m. that very same day. So that caused a bit of a ruckus around social media on Thursday. Then the Broncos have also got themselves new uniforms, which released today, not long before this afternoon our time, which have caused, again, a different kind of ruckus on social media, as most people have found them to be terrible. And in a day that only just got worse for the Broncos, they also signed Zach Wilson. So, bad day to be a Broncos fan. But there is one other signing that happened today that I guess is kind of to top off this news is Matt Ryan, legendary quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, who left a couple of years ago, has re-signed with the Falcons on a one-day contract in order to retire a Falcon. And I don't think we could do this segment without asking Chapman how are you feeling on this, mate?
Thanks, Fletch. It's really bittersweet. I wrote down that Matt Ryan to me is the greatest Falcon of all time, and I think anyone who has followed his career, I was saying earlier that as good a player as he is, he's been a great person and been such a leader and a positive force in Atlanta. When Matt Ryan came in, if you guys take you back on a quick little tour of history, it was the year after the Michael Vick debacle when he was arrested and we were left without a quarterback. We got to watch Joey Harrington, which Fletch, you'll remember old Joey Harrington, and a circus car of quarterbacks. We took Matt Ryan with the third overall pick, and it was probably one of the most significant draft picks in all of Atlanta sports. He was with us for 14 years. And as he retires, he is going to retire 7th all-time in passing yards, 5th all-time in completions. He's going to finish 9th all-time in touchdowns, and 4th all-time in fourth quarter comebacks. He won an MVP in 2006, was a 4-time Pro Bowler, Rookie of the Year, a lot of accolades. It was an honor to watch him play, man. And before Matt Ryan came, the Atlanta Falcons had never won back-to-back winning seasons in their history, and they've been around since the 60s. So he was an incredible force, and I would suggest if you do take a chance, they put a video together that they put on X today that the Falcons did. It's a great just sort of recap of Matt Ryan. My hope is that he will get into the Hall of Fame one day. Obviously, not winning the Super Bowl is going to be the kicker, but I think the summation of his career and the excellence of which he played should get him in there. Thanks.
No problem. Just to kind of speak on the news, I say it's a very, very slow news week. So what nearly made it in, just to beef out the news, was that Zach Wilson hadn't turned up to voluntary workouts. That nearly made it in this week. But thank you, Chapman, for that one, by the way.
The Browns got new face masks. What do you mean there's no more news?
Oh, yeah. Helmet news.
We all love helmet
news.
news.
We need helmet news. Helmet news. This is the segment that Chapman said he was going to do for us.
Yeah, no, why don't we care about face masks and helmets? What is going on? These are arguments we have over WhatsApp during the week. Anyway, there's some weird football fetishes in this group. Anyway, white face masks, Ollie. That's what you're getting excited about. Woo!
I just want to ask this really quick. Like with the Lions jerseys being leaked this week, and we've seen the Texans' new helmets have been leaked. More helmet news. The concept of like you can do so much as a franchise at the moment to keep leaks out and kind of really tighten up the hatches around the franchise, but third party partners who can still eventually end up leaking all your stuff, it is a really, really hard thing to keep track of nowadays. I just wanted to say that
I think it's purposeful. The Falcons got theirs leaked a few years ago when they had their. I think it's all because I think they want people to have interest. I don't think it's. I think
it's almost more exciting if it comes from somebody else, but like allegedly by accident.
Yeah,
it did create that buzz all day.
See.
Well,
I think if that didn't happen, we would have been talking on the day of jersey release, as no one had been talking about it until the Lions released it. However, we were then talking about it all day.
Hashtag helmet news now on X.
I like
No, it's got helmet headlines.
Helmet headlines. That's just sounds wrong on so many levels.
It does sound terribly wrong.
You're gonna have to do a side pod about when you guys had to explain to me what the helmet, what helmet was really meaning for you guys. It doesn't translate in America.
In other Asleep at Work news, we are now starting our own NFL After Dark podcast.
That sounds awesome.
just to try and throw us back on track, we will move on to our main segment where I'm sure it's the part that most people are probably looking forward to. And most other podcasts out there have been doing these for ages, but we thought we'd wait until the very last minute to do our very own Hurdle the Line mock draft. We are going to do it slightly differently. So we're running on the premise that we're having 0 trades. We are running with the draft order as it is, as of today. So as of the time of recording, which means that it'll be as it has been all until that point. We have agreed a snake order for picking. So the order, so that everyone's aware of, starts from the second pick, I will say. And it starts with Oliver picking from the second to Tom, Carl, David, Chapman, Shaun, and then myself in a snake order. So then we'll go reverse after that. Fletch, do you want to, first of all, in a very much Roger Goodell element, announce the first pick of the Hurdle the Line 2024 mock draft?
No. But I think we all pre-agreed that there was one man who's been desperate to do this for weeks.
Yeah.
So I am going to humbly trade this pick. I know we said no trades. I'm humbly trading this pick to Oliver there down in the corner. So you may announce this pick.
Well, I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion, obviously, that it's Caleb Williams going number 1 overall to the Chicago Bears. I think most people have known he's going to be the first overall pick since his sophomore year at college. He's the best quarterback prospect that I've personally seen since I've been paying attention to the draft since 2018. I think his arm talent is potentially generational, and I think he could have arguably a top 5, arm in the NFL as a rookie. I think he's that good. He's a really good athlete. Everyone kind of sees the highlights of him scrambling around and making crazy plays, but I think he's also as good in the pocket. I think he's got like elite pocket presence and sense, to sense pressure and negate pressure while remaining in the pocket. And when you combine those two things, it's a pretty crazy combination. And is, in my opinion, a complete package, as close as that to as you can get. So overall, yeah, when you just combine all the intangibles with the talent, I think the sky is the limit for him. And it's going to be a great pick for the Chicago Bears, and maybe going to be the first quarterback to finally change that franchise around in this century.
And that was very eloquently put. And you've been dying about talking about him for the past God knows how long since we've been starting this podcast. So yeah, we did have to start with a little bit on. I
appreciate it.
And on that note, then we'll jump straight into the second pick. So again, that's back with you, Ollie. So fire ahead. Who are you going with your second
Washington
pick?
Commanders, Drake May. Obviously, I think it obviously comes down to quarterback for them, and it's between Drake May and Jaden Daniels, and I think it's a pretty easy decision to go with May. He's younger; he'll be 22 as a rookie. Daniels will be 24. I think he's actually a better processor. He shows more patience in the pocket, and I think he's actually more advanced at reading defenses, despite being younger. And this is pretty evident when you look at their usage rates and success rates at the target in the middle of the field. I mean, Daniels, for someone, a prospect, doubted to be as high as he's going, is his usage rate and success rate in the middle of the field is alarmingly low for a prospect of his caliber. Playing onto that as well, I think he's got a more sound pocket presence overall and just handles pressure better. And so overall, I'd rather bet on potential over experience, and May just is the better prospect to me in most categories.
Brill. Tom's not actually with us today, unfortunately. So I'm going to be reading out Tom's pick. So a lot of what I'm going to be saying about this next pick is all from Tom. So thank you for that, Tom. And yeah. So with the third pick, the Patriots are going to select Jaden Daniels, QB from LSU. The rationale behind the pick, versatility of Jaden Daniels. He's a dual threat QB. He led the FBS with 11.7 yards per pass attempt and 8.4 yards per rush. He's the only player to lead in both categories since at least 1996. the Heisman. He was the Heisman Trophy winner and first team All-Sec in 2023. And yeah, he's a rare blend of pocket-making talent, playmaking talent, not pocket-making talent, playmaking talent, and command from the pocket. He's a great deep ball thrower with excellent burst and speed to turn scrambles into explosive plays, something the Patriots desperately need moving forward. So that is the third pick. Carl, that's with the fourth pick.
So with the fourth pick, the Arizona Cardinals will select Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State, the first receiver to come off the board. The thing that Harrison does better than just about any of the college wide receivers in recent memory is his ability to go up and catch the ball. The contested catch artist, he doesn't fully do him any justice. He's 6'4", 205 pounds. He's more than just a jump ball specialist. He's a very polished route runner. Every aspect of his game oozes off the screen, from the route tempo and the clean footwork to the feigns on route stems that keep quarterbacks off balance, to his bend and body control to sink and stay tight on his route breaks, to even his varied releases. Like an elite pass rusher, he can alter between speed and power when going across press or man coverage. And he's also got pedigree on his side as well, because I believe that his father was a generational player for the Colts. Thank you very much. He'll probably spend most of his time lined up outside at the next level. He did demonstrate his ability to thrive in the slot. 18% of snaps, I think it was, in 2023 in this season. He registered an absurd 149.6 passer rating when targeted out the slot over the last 2 seasons, which was 4th highest mark of any Power 5 wide receiver with at least 25 such catches. Why Arizona are taking him? Well, they've just lost Hollywood Brown. Don't really have a lot of the receiver position. This should be an absolute slam dunk for the Arizona Cardinals. And comparison, you may want to look at another Hall of Fame. I don't know, maybe a Larry Fitzgerald. Maybe we're looking at that sort of receiver when it comes to Marvin Harrison Jr.
Thank you, Carl. The next pick is from David, but again, David is unfortunately not with us today. So Fletch is going to be announcing his pick.
Yeah. So with the 5th pick of the 2024 Hurdle the Line mock draft, the LA Chargers select Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, Louisiana State University. Now, sorry. I honestly think Malik Neighbors has the genuine ability to be the best wide receiver coming out with this draft, given the right scheme, given the right situation, and given the right coaching. Someone like Jim Harbaugh can really, I think, get the best out of someone like Malik Neighbors. And one thing that Justin Herbert really needs right now is, if it's not going to be protection, it's going to be assets that he can throw to and he can get the ball to, because that young man is one of the best quarterbacks in the whole of the NFL, and he needs those sort of assets. He can help take Herbert to the next level because he's got everything he needs as a wide receiver to make it at this level, and someone like Jim Harbaugh coaching him with Herbert throwing to him, very good.
Thank you, Fletch. Moving on to Chapman.
Yes, and with the 6th pick of the Hurdle the Line draft, the New York Giants select quarterback J.J. McCarthy, Michigan. And to me right here, if J.J. is here and the Vikings have not traded up, I think this is a great pick for the Giants, mainly because they don't have an answer at quarterback right now, and this is the 3rd year of Dayball, and I think he needs to make a move here and get somebody to replace Daniel Jones. I like McCarthy mainly because I think the Ringer's Danny Kelly says he's a spry version of Kirk Cousins. And if you can get like a Kirk Cousins that can run and who's young, I think that could be a really big boost for the Giants. He wasn't asked to do a ton in Michigan, but I don't think that means that he can't do more. And and he has a lot of traits coming out that you like. He can pass the ball downfield. He's a good decision maker. He can run if he needs to. He's got some athleticism. No, he's not as flashy as some of the other quarterbacks that have already gone before him, but it doesn't mean that he can't be a successful starter in the NFL. And I like this pick for the Giants. I think I am throwing to Shaun.
Totally agree with that. So, with the 7th pick of the Hurdle the Line mock draft, the Tennessee Titans are taking Joe Alt, offensive tackle, Notre Dame. The reason for that, for me, is pretty obvious. The Titans' offensive line is horrendous. Looking at the stats last year, they allowed 64 sacks last year, which was almost tied second. I won't mention who was first. They have a quarterback in Levis who they kind of need to go well, despite their worries about him as a starter. He only completed 40% of his passes when he gets pressure. That dramatically goes up to 60% if he doesn't have pressure. So it's a huge need for them. Alton elite tackle. He's a son of a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, and he's just an absolute stud. And at 6'8" in a need like that for the Tennessee Titans, they just can't turn it away. And I believe I'm passing my next pick on to Sam.
Yes, thank you, Shaun. With the inevitable 8th pick, the Atlanta Falcons are selecting Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Alabama. Now, when I was sort of making this pick, the thing that I went with is, what do the Falcons need the most? No team, and this is since 2016, so the next gen era. No team has a lower QB pressure than the Falcons at 23.7%. So to me, your biggest need is to go and get yourself an edge rusher to put on the pressure onto those QBs. I mean, Dallas Turner, for me, I think he's maybe not the most ready edge rusher that we're going to have going into the league. I don't think he's going to be necessarily the most play ready, but I think he has the highest ceiling. I think he has, in terms of what he can offer and what he does, I think he's going to be the I suppose what you would class as maybe more of the star man going down the line. So I think that's why I went with Dallas Turner at edge. And it's back with me for the 9th pick. So the Bears are going to be selecting with the 9th pick Rome Odunze. I hope I've pronounced that right. Wide receiver from Washington. Now, the Bears is an interesting one because they need a lot, and they've just gone and got 2 wide receivers. Well, they've obviously got DJ Moore, and then they've gone and got Keenan Allen. And I just think that, you're going to be bringing in Caleb Williams, and I think what better to do it than bring him also another elite wide receiver and just give him as many weapons as he possibly can have. I do think that Rome Odunze in his own right is going to be a future wide receiver one. I think he offers so much out in terms of his route running and his various different plays that he can make. I think he's just of the wide receivers behind Harrison and Neighbors. I think he is just the next one. So for me, that's why I went with Rome at number 9 for the for the Bears. Sorry. Back to you, Shaun, with the 10th pick.
Yeah, so pick 10 of the Hurdle the Line mock draft, the New York Jets are taking Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia. This one, the reason I went with this one, I mean, for me, he's probably one of the best players left on the board at this point. And the Jets 100% need offensive weapons to make the win now scenario that they've got with Rodgers at quarterback work. They've got decent wide receiver in Wilson, but they just need that other option for Rodgers. Bowers is an absolute freak. He's got great speed for his size, incredible stride. He gets to speed so quick. He's got yak ability, great toughness. I believe he was actually nicknamed Superman by his college teammates. And not only can he catch the ball and have that yak ability, he also draws so much attention from the defense, which will then open up routes for other players. And at the situation they've got with Rodgers coming back from that injury and basically trying to replicate what they were trying to do last year before the injury, he's the weapon they need. And I believe I'm moving on to Chapman.
And with the 11th pick of the Hurdle Line draft, the Vikings select Quinyon Mitchell, defensive back, Toledo. And I would say this, they might be getting the best defensive player at 11 of this whole draft. Quinyon Mitchell is explosive. He's highly competitive. He's got elite athleticism, and he's got he's just when you watch him, you know he's a football player. I highly recommend going on YouTube and watching his stats. He's a ball hawk. He's huge, and he played. I believe all 4 years at Toledo. I think he played 4 years at Toledo, and he didn't leave. He was offered after his breakout year last year. He was offered a lot of NIL deals, and he stayed to finish his year there. This kid's awesome, and he's just a physical freak. He bench pressed 225 at the combine 21 times. Ran a 4.4, I believe it was a 4.33 40. He's big. He's huge. He's gonna catch balls. He's gonna be a nightmare out there. He's gonna remind me a lot of Sauce, I think. And I'm very excited to see him play in the NFL. Going back to Fletch now.
Oh, I'm so excited for this one. With the 12th pick in the Hurdle the Line mock draft, we have the Denver Broncos taking quarterback Bo Nix from Oregon.
Whoa!
Now,
That's a shocker.
Bo Nix has just about everything you want from an NFL quarterback. He has the athleticism, he has the arm, he has the strength, he has so much going for him that would make it in today's game. This seems like a bit of a reach. If you actually watch and listen to a lot of the stuff that's going on right now, it feels like a reach. But right now, I can't believe I'm saying this after what I've said earlier about the Denver Broncos, but there is no better situation for you to go in if you want to be someone like Bo Nix. This is a situation in which there is no pressure for you to go in and start day one because they've just taken Zach Wilson. So you can sit back a little bit, watch how the game unfolds, wait for Zach Wilson to go down, or completely mess up, which he will inevitably do. And then you can walk in and save the day. But like I say, he's got just about everything in his tank. He's got the athleticism, he's got the strength, he's got everything that's going to be needed to make it in the NFL these days. So even if you think it's a reach, you're wrong. Bo Nix at 12 will prove to be a steal. And I will throw this now to Carl.
Thank you very much, mate. So with the 13th pick in this draft, the Las Vegas / Oakland / LA Raiders, they are taking offensive tackle Talisi Fuaga. So the reason why I've got the Raiders taking this pick is because they do need help at the tackle position, but they are also very, very dependent at running the ball. And this guy is simply the best run blocker at the tackle position in this draft. He's an efficient mover out of his stance. He has good initial quicks to get to landmarks with, low pads and heavy hands. He's very good at feeding to secure the first level before taking very good angles on climbs to intercept the second lot. He's a functional puller as well, so he's very good. His proficient angles help mitigate his below average change of direction. He's a little bit vulnerable to losing quickly if defenders can beat him down in space. He does drift a little bit offset against wide rush alignments and rushes. But what the Raiders are specifically looking for is we do run the ball a lot. Aiden O'Connell, it could be Aiden O'Connell. It could be another quarterback. We don't know yet. But if it is Aiden O'Connell, they're going to need to give him as much time in the pocket as possible. And helpful that the running game will help him along the way. That's why I got Talisi Fuaga going to the Raiders. And now we move over to the Saints pick, which I believe is Tom, is it not?
It is. So I'm just reading Tom's picks out, just with him not being here. So the Saints choose J.C. Latham, offensive tackle from Alabama. So reason behind this pick, he displays as a stout anchor and lateral mobility and pass protection to neutralize speed to power transitions and react to defensive counters. This, as well as Latham's ability in the Saints zone run scheme, achieving reach blocks and backside seals with high efficiency and fluidity, will make him a great fit for the New Orleans and bulk out that offensive line, which is something that they need to be maintaining, especially with the sort of run schemes that they play. Moving on to Ollie for the next two.
Yep.
picks.
So pick 15 for the Colts. I went with cornerback Cooper DeJean out of Iowa, and I just picked him so I could talk about the fabled white cornerback. To be honest, no, I'm only kidding. I think the Colts have their biggest need is in the secondary at both cornerback and safety, and I think DeJean can play at a high level in the NFL at both corner and safety, as well as even at nickel corner if Kenny Moore's unavailable. He has an elite athletic profile, and Chris Ballard, the Colts GM, has a history of drafting elite athletic profile type of players, like the best athletes at their position. He's a better zone and press corner than the other options at this pick. I think he's got a high IQ and he's a more physical at the line of scrimmage. He's got quite a big frame at 6'1" and 200 pounds. He's a better scheme fit than the other corners in this for the Colts. I think Iowa ran a lot of cover 3 when DeJean was there, and the Colts ran the most cover 3 in the NFL last season. Obviously, with their defensive coordinator being Gus Bradley, the former Seahawks defensive coordinator, who kind of pioneered that cover 3 Seattle 3 defensive scheme. So yeah, I think just overall he fits the Colts scheme best out of the other corners, which is their biggest need, I believe, and he has the ability to play multiple positions in that secondary and fill multiple roles for them if they need down the line. So yeah, that's why I went with Cooper DeJean for the Colts. And then pick 16 for the Seattle Seahawks, I went with offensive lineman Troy Fautanu out of Washington. 6'4", 317 pounds. He's one of my favourite offensive line prospects in the draft. Seattle's biggest need is on the interior offensive line, and he's a player that can play guard or even be their tackle in the future if it comes to that. He's quite short for a tackle, but he does have more than long enough arms at 34.5 inches to play tackle, and he's got really good footwork and really good mobility and athleticism. So even though I think he will originally, start as a guard, I think he could play tackle long term down his NFL career. Like I said, he's one of the most versatile offensive linemen in the draft. He can play tackle, guard, and he was even regarded as one of the best centre prospects by one of the team scouts, according to Daniel Jeremiah, which just shows his versatility across that line. He's PFF's third-ranked offensive lineman. He only allowed 3 sacks and 5 QB hits in 1,332 pass blocking snaps at his time in Washington, which is pretty good. So overall, I just think he's a match made in heaven with Seattle, and fills a position of need and can come in and start at guard straight away. And then if they want to look at maybe moving him to tackle down the line, they can do that. So it's a versatile offensive lineman that to add in a position that they need. And I believe I'm moving on to Tom, but Sam announcing his pick.
Yeah, so with the next pick, the Jags are going to be taking the other cornerback in Terrion Arnold from Alabama. Again, another team that are desperate for a cornerback. Terrion Arnold himself, he's a great corner with fluency, twitch, and explosiveness to drive out of breaks. He has a top-end speed running 4.51 at the combine, and rarely will a receiver be able to run past him. Jags gave up 7.1 yards per attempt through the air, which ranked middle of the pick, especially in a division with C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson having a corner with top-end speed, versatility, and explosiveness is going to be key in bouncing back for the Jags in 2024. Playing tight press man in Jacksonville will definitely benefit, because of the way they play, will definitely benefit the skill set of Terrion Arnold. Me personally, I know this is not my pick, but I do think that for me, he's one of the best 2 cornerbacks in this draft class. So that's the reason why Tom has gone with him. So we're moving on to Carl with the next
So, with
pick.
the 18th pick in this draft, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be taking Byron Murphy II, defensive tackle out of the University of Texas. Good builder with thick lower half, but not very much bad weight. He's very quick. The quick get off helps him get penetration right off the snap. He has the agility to cross the guard's face when slanting, shoots his hands straight from his stance. He has the upper body strength to get extension against offensive linemen fairly easily. He takes on blocks with a wide base and good pad level. He's very hard to move one-on-one and is solid against double teams. He shows a nice move to escape and defeat blocks. He has the strength to pull the guard's shoulder down and win as a pass rusher with an arm over. He also has a nice rip move. And he also flashed decent push-pull and club-by moves that he can add to his arsenal in the NFL. Why Cincinnati are taking this? Well, the Bengals don't exactly have very much needs. I think their biggest needs is either defensive tackle or the tight end position. And considering that the best tight end on the board is gone, I think they just take the next player available of what they actually need. And they take Byron Murphy II. And then I forward it over to the Rams pick. Whoever that is, I have mistaken.
That would be me. And with...
Number 19th pick.
What number are we at now? Is it the 19th? With the 19th pick of the Hurdle the Line mock draft, the LA Rams are taking defensive end Jared Verse from Florida State University. Now, I actually genuinely really like Jared Verse. This wasn't my pick originally, but I really like this one. I think the Jared Verse is a fantastic D end with his versatility lacks a little bit, but what he lacks in versatility he makes up with athleticism, speed, power. He's mostly been at Florida. At Florida State. He was mostly asked to just play on the edge. He's played in quite a basic defense. Florida State has been known for having a very good defensive front over the last couple of years, so his role has been fairly limited. Now I think, as in terms of his versatility, he may struggle to go into a base 3-4 defense, which is what the Rams run. But I think that if anyone could grow and learn with the athleticism, the power, and everything that he has, if he's going to go to anywhere where he could learn and become a much, much better and much more versatile defensive end, then the Rams would be one of the best places to do so. So I think when you combine all the pros that he has with the cons, but the fact that he's going to LA, where I think they could really grow him and turn him into a potential, where they really also need that help, especially after losing Aaron Donald this year. I think it could be a very, very interesting place for him to go, and should that match work, I think he could be an absolute monster. He has been able to work, by the way, both in the pass rush and in the run defense. He's found quite a strong, he's found himself in quite a strong position in both the pass and rush game as well. So with that said, I'm going to throw it over now to Chapman.
Thank you. And with the 20th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers take Amarius Mims, tackle, the University of Georgia. Amarius is a ginormous man. And not only is he ginormous, but he's very flexible and he's very fast as a ginormous man. And new offensive coordinator Arthur Smith loves running the ball, and he loves big football players. And as we know, there's a history, before the Eagles, there was a history of Pittsburgh Steelers drafting great University of Georgia players on both sides of the ball. And I think this could go down as another one for them. Amarius has not played as much as a starter on the Georgia team, but he's gone up against some elite defenses in both the SEC and the playoffs the last couple of years. And he has proven himself a great run and pass blocker. And like I said, I think Arthur Smith's really going to want to run the ball, especially when your quarterbacks are Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. And I think this guy, he's a great, he's one of the best offensive linemen in this draft. And I think he's going to be a great tackle in the NFL. I am throwing to, somebody help me. I am throwing back to Shaun.
Thanks. So for me, pick 21 in the mock draft, the Dolphins are taking Graham Barton, guard from Duke. I say guard, he spent most of his time playing left tackle, but the expectation is that he'll move to guard once he transitions to the NFL. All American in 2023, extremely tough, strong mentality, which he's going to need if he's not only going to transition to the NFL, he's also going to have to transition into the guard position. I think the Dolphins don't have huge needs, but they did lose Robert Hunt in free agency, and he looks like he's going to slot exactly there for them, just to shore up their run game. Essentially, a lot of their offense is built around the run game, and then which opens up the plays for the downfield balls to Hill and Waddle. So I think it'll be great for them to come in and just create more lanes and create more massive run plays for the Dolphins. And he was one of the few needs that they had. So that would be a good pick for them. And I believe I'm moving on to Sam.
Yes, and with the 22nd pick, I know that Fletch is extremely unhappy about this pick, but the Eagles have picked Kool-Aid McKinstry at cornerback from Alabama. For me, this was when doing this, I really struggled with this pick. I think there were a couple positions where I think they are desperate to replace. Obviously, we're losing Kelsey at center. I thought they could have easily, I think they could pick that up a bit later. But the other area that I thought they were a particular weakness was in the backfield and in the defensive backs. And I think Kool-Aid has quite a lot of promise, and I think that they still want to give Bradbury another year. I think he had a terrible year last year, and I think Kool-Aid is a great pick for them at this because I think he has enough time with those other players around him, with all the picks that they had from last year with Keely Ringo and Sidney Brown, who they also took in the 2023 draft. I think by having that group, it allows McKinstry to be able to bed in nicely and also then potentially be a much better pick for them in the long run than necessarily straight away. I mean, if you looking at his stats, I mean, he's got 93 total tackles, 2 sacks, 23 passes defended, and 2 interceptions. They're not amazing stats, but they are still good enough that with a decent defensive team and a decent defensive coordinator, he could certainly be someone who would be useful against those bigger corners, bigger wide receivers in defending those passes. Moving swiftly on to the next pick, which is the 23rd pick with the Vikings. We've gone for Jazan Newton, defensive tackle from Illinois. This one I found was a lot easier, especially with the fact that they're drafting in our draft, picking two picks. Now, I think with Newton, he's an interesting one, and the reason why I'm happy I got to pick this guy is because, generally speaking, D tackles tend to be quite big. This guy is on the smaller side, and we all know of a very, very, very famous small defensive tackle, and this guy has very similar stats in terms of his size. He's only 6'2", 295 pounds. So I mean, he is I don't want to say he's going to be the next Aaron Donald, but he is, of similar size. And he again is someone who, although he's on the smaller side, is very disruptive. He is known for having what we call violent hands, and he is highly disruptive. And I think in terms of that Vikings defensive line, they already have Harrison Phillips, and I think this guy Newton is going to be the pass rusher which they need to complement Harrison Phillips, who most people see more of as a run stuffer. So I think it'll be I like that as a pick, and I think he'll be a great complement to that Vikings D line. Moving on back to Shaun with the next pick.
Yeah, so with pick 24 of the Hurdle Line mock draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver, LSU. Looking at this one, they did have a couple of needs on both lines, essentially, for Dallas. And I kind of went against a lot of the mock drafts out there and the experts and just purely went for more wide receiver help for Dak Prescott, which he needs. Like, CD Lamb is an incredible player, but he can't do it on his own. He takes on, I think he takes 30% of the team's targets. It's higher than that of team receptions. Brandon Cooks had one of the worst seasons he's had last year in terms of yards per game. they don't have a lot else anywhere else. So a player like Brian Thomas Jr., who is just electric, outstanding speed, great athlete. He's just his stutter step release is insane. I think he's one of them where if we didn't have some of the other wide receivers we happen to have in this draft, he would be much higher in the draft. So yeah, if him being available, Dak needs help. He's there. Take him. I believe I'm moving on to Chapman.
Thank you. And with pick 25, the Green Bay Packers take Xavier Worthy, Texas. I know what everybody's thinking. Why would the Green Bay take a wide receiver here? They have such a great wide receiver room. Because they need more help for Jordan Love. Jordan Love is still a very young quarterback. And also, I don't know if you guys can't remember this, but Christian Watson can't stay on the field for some reason because he's getting hurt all the time. Yes, he's great when he's on the field, but anyway, I think Xavier Worthy is awesome. And we all know about his record 40 time, but it's not just that. He's a shifty guy, and he can take the top off. He can be that guy to give some of the release off Watson so everybody isn't keying on him and even Dobbs. I watched this in, again, going back to my Atlanta experience. We had this with Gabriel in 2016. When you have that really fast X receiver, he just opens up things for everybody else. I think it's a great pick, and I think in a draft that's really going to be very wide receiver heavy for the first 2 rounds, I think this makes sense. Also, I think Green Bay is really petty, and I think them taking a wide receiver in the first round to kind of give a little bit of a middle finger to Rodgers now that he's gone, that kind of helps. And you got 2 second-rounders coming up, so you can fill out some of those other needs coming up. Take the fun pick. Take a wide receiver in the first round. Xavier Worthy. Passing to you, Fletch.
Okay, so with where are we at now? I can't count anymore.
26.
We're that far in. With the
26th
pick in the Hurdle the Line mock draft, the Buccaneers select Olu Fashanu. Now, reason number 1 is to wind Ollie up. That's not me saying it. That's David. That's David's reasoning. That's not mine. Although I will take that one too. I enjoy that bit. But reasons number 2 is the fact that he's a fantastic offensive tackle. The man has, again, I spoke a lot about so far in some of the other guys. Athleticism is a huge part for me in this game, and to play certain positions the way that they're changing. We spoke about Jason Kelsey earlier today. Athletic, that man was one of the ones who changed the way that these positions are being played on the O-line. The athleticism he has is fantastic. He's fast, he's strong, he's got a great arm length in order to go. He gets set in his stances quite well. He's got the fast hands. I think he'd be an absolutely brilliant addition. And let's face it, if you've got a damn good bike and you've just invested a lot of money in a bike, going back to our engines last week, if you've invested a lot of good money in a bike, do you know what you should invest in really well? A damn good lock for that bike. You can never protect your assets too much. In the words of David, you can never overprotect your quarterback. Back to you, Carl.
Thank you for that soliloquy, Fletch. Okay, with the 27th pick in this draft, the Arizona Cardinals, again, they are going to take Chop Robinson, edge out of Penn State. Now this is an awkward pick for me to go for here because they already got the receiver. There's no defensive tackle or corner or even a guard on the board at the time. So once again, you're only taking the best place. They could trade down, which is a possibility, and go back into the second round. But they take what's on the board. They take Chop Robinson. He earns his nickname with unhinged maniacal energy as a 3-down defender. He's extremely dense, a compact rusher with eye-catching point of contact, strength and pop. Hyper elite explosive threat with a volcanic first step that can immediately stress angles. His ankle is very flexible to reduce his surface whilst multitasking around the corner, and he maximizes his power elements with burst twitch and violent extensions. Basically, this guy's an absolute home wrecker. And the Cardinals, there's one thing they have been lacking since J.J. Watt retired from there. They've lacked pass rushing ability. So this, for me, is who they take. There's been some questions on his character, But I still think he'll be. I still think the Cardinals will take it. I still think any team will take him in the first round. I think he's got that much upside to him. So I'm going to say Jock Robinson goes to the Arizona Cardinals. And with that, we now move to. It would have been Tom's pick, so we're going back to Sam with the Buffalo Bills pick.
Thank you. Yes, and with the 28th pick, the Buffalo Bills are taking Ladd McConkey, wide receiver from Georgia. Now, this pick's Tom loved this pick from what he's told us. He said, "What can you say other than this guy is an absolute technician, an elite route runner who is consistently manipulates corners into relinquishing their leverage. He's an excellent short area, has excellent short area quickness. He's effective at tracking the ball downfield. He is also has other elements to his game. He's an excellent blocker on the outside, adding value to the running game and adding a reliable wide receiver to an excellent route running, an excellent route running. I think that's meant to say group to bolster a depleted Bills offense." Could be just what the Bills need. And I mean, you look at the Bills wide receiver group. I think at the moment they've got Matt Collins, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, and KJ Hamler. I mean, losing Diggs and Davis, it was just an absolute a disaster in a way. I mean, two very good wide receivers, and to then having to bring in someone who better to bring in than Ladd McConkey. Over to Ollie for the next two picks.
Yep, so felt a lot of pressure with this one at pick 29 for the Detroit Lions, obviously with our producer Fletch's team. I ended up going with cornerback Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. As Fletch will agree, you know, their biggest need was definitely secondary help, and they had the 29th ranked passing defense last season in the NFL, despite making the NFC Championship game. And with this pick, they're getting someone that I personally believe is arguably the second best corner in the draft. And I think he would be viewed as that by a lot of other people if it wasn't for his weight and injury concerns. He's extremely fast, ran a 4.2840 at the combine, and he has the ideal height and length to be a true outside corner. And it would be ideal if he could put on about 10 pounds, but he's still only 20 years old, so he's still got time to grow into his body. He's proficient in both man and zone coverage, but he's particularly excels in man coverage, where again he can use his excellent speed, and he's got really good patience and footwork to stick with wide receivers on vertical concepts. So that again, I just think he makes a really good outside corner prospect and has true potential. Put me on an island against the team's best wide receiver ability and take that side of the field out of the equation. Overall, I think he just feels the biggest area of need for the Lions here. I think they have to go cornerback. Whether if he's, personally, I think he'll be gone by this point. So they'll probably have to reach for one of those probably second round prospects. But this would be perfect situation again, because like I said, I think they have to go secondary here, and they get someone that I believe is arguably the second best corner in the draft. And then me again at pick 30 for the Ravens. Gross. Hope this doesn't happen. Defensive end Leatu Latu out of UCLA. I think Eric DeCosta would probably run all the way to get this pick in. He fills one of their biggest positions of need, with obviously Clowney leaving this offseason and their top two edge rushers on their depth chart being Odafe Owe and David Ajabu at the minute. I think that they really, really need to get more bodies in there, and I think he's the most polished and pro-ready pass rusher in the draft. He could easily have 10 sacks as a rookie on that Ravens defensive line. Playing into, again, I think he's a good scheme fit as well. He has the size, athleticism and experience to line up either as, a kind of hand in the dirt defensive end or a more stand-up outside linebacker in that, Ravens multiple front that they like to run. Overall, yeah, best player available, 100% at pick 30. I think a lot of people view him as the best defensive, end prospect in the draft. So to get him at 30 and to fall this far is would be a shock, and I really hope it doesn't happen. But that's why I ended up going with him. And on to, I believe, Tom, but Sam speaking for him.
Yes, so with the 31st pick in the draft, the 49ers, and I hate this pick, take A.D. Mitchell, wide receiver out of Texas. So Tom has put on this one. Mitchell's a smooth mover for his long frame. He has a wide catch radius with ability to go up and mix it up and take out and just obliterate opposing DBs. He's a decent route runner, excelling with various sort of post runs and all the different sort of elements that he can do on that offensive run and those wide receiver routes. His size, speed, and ball skills to succeed at the next are all there for him to be able to succeed at the next level. He's patient in tracking the ball downfield and has a ridiculous catch web to retrieve off-frame throws from a variety of directions. He would be a great addition, I don't agree, to the 49ers wide receiver core, only because I don't want them to have a very good wide receiver. With questions surrounding Brandon Ayuk's availability via trade, Tom believes that he could blossom into a number one wide receiver in a Kyle Shanahan offense, and it's not like they don't need any more pieces on that offensive team. And for the very final pick of the draft, of the Hurdle the Line draft, Carl.
So, for the 37th pick in this draft, the reigning and defending back-to-back Super Bowl champions Kansas City Chiefs select Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle. As if they don't need any more weapons, as if they don't need any more protection around this quarterback, but they do have a little bit of a problem at the tackle position, and Tyler Guyton I was hoping would fall into the second round, but nope, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to take him. He has a towering long frame, he's very lean, evenly dispersed build, very athletic, packs a lot of heat on contact with his size, he has natural power, naturally a strong anchor to sit down and grind down the ball rush. He glides out of stance in pass protection. He's got great quickness, great range and balance, and to protect the corner. Flashes, patience in his pass sets to maintain inside-out relationship with light, active, and evasive hands that disrupts the rusher's timing and end reps quickly. And he can jolt, feed, displace first-level defenders on angle drive and double-team blocks with the burst and size to blot out backers on his climbs. And on top of all of that, you're also being the main blindside blocker for probably one of the greatest generational quarterbacks we've ever seen in Patrick Mahomes. So this for me, for Kansas City, they could do with some more weapons, and I think it wouldn't surprise me if they did take a weapon. But on this occasion, they will take Tyler Guyton because he is the best tackle left available in the first round before you move into the second. And that concludes the first round of the draft.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Carl. Right, we've got all the way through that. Obviously, anyone who's listening to this, if you want to check out our Twitter, you'll be able to see those. So, we've had it out, and we just got through all of those quickly. How are we feeling? Especially with obviously people I don't think anyone picked for their own team. Obviously, Ollie, you didn't get to pick for anyone because you don't get a pick until day 4 or whatever it is.
Okay,
How are we feeling about the picks that have been made for our teams? Chapman, we'll start with you, seeing as obviously you've got the Falcons pick in there. We'll start with you.
Yeah, I was happy. I mean, we've talked about this before. I think they need to go defense in the first round of some. I would love it if we could trade down from 8, but can't be upset about having Dallas Turner. He's a physical freak, and hopefully he can lead up to his potential. So happy with that.
Carl,
Fletch, what do you think about? Oh, sorry.
We can go to Fletch. Yeah, Fletch, what do you think of the pick that Ollie made for you at?
I can't think
in
of
the
the pick
Hurdle
that
Line
Ollie made for me because I'm too busy thinking about the pick that you stole from me when you went with the Eagles.
Nate Wiggins is better than Kool-Aid Man. Like, I don't know
Be
why
quiet,
you're so
right?
sensitive.
I don't want to hear it right now.
I can't even.
hear it right now.
The fact that his name is Kool-Aid is a little bit. Do you know what I mean? That kind of
I
throws me off a little bit
think you
anyway.
should
But no, I'm
I think
kidding.
you should let me have my reasons. And whether those reasons are football related or not is absolutely none of your business.
It's the name. That's why you want him. It's the name. Through football ability, I just wouldn't be able to say the name.
I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, I can have my reasons. My reasons are my reasons. End of story. But also, I do actually think that the number one thing that we need right now is DB help or defensive end help. At this point, and it's a really, really strange point for me to be as a Lions fan. Being that late in the first round, I think some of those the best, obviously the best DEs have already gone, but in terms of cornerback depth and in terms of DE depth, it's the best place to go at that point in the draft is to go with the best cornerback available, rather than defensive end. And I also think that that's the place where we need the most help. We do have Hutchinson on the line, and with a couple of other players like Ellen McNeil, James Houston, and hopefully a couple of the additions we've made in the off season. The defensive line needs a bit less help than cornerback and our defensive backs. So I think, as much as, all joking aside, as much as I would have loved to have had Kool-Aid McKinstry for the name, I would have loved Kool-Aid McKinstry as a player. I do like Nate Wiggins, and I think that's by far the best pick. It's the best pick we could have got at that point in the draft. So I don't think Ollie actually could have gone wrong there with that pick.
I'll give you the 20 quid later.
Nice one. PayPal, yeah?
Sean, obviously this is an interesting one. JJ McCarthy to the Giants. What do we think?
Hate it. I hate it. I can see. I can understand why Chapman made the pick, but I just hate it. I just don't like him. I just think he's got bust written all over him. I think if the others aren't available and he's what's there, we just take an absolute number one wide receiver that we need massively.
Can I just give you?
Worry about
Sorry, Sean. Can I just give you
later in the draft.
Can I just give you a stat here, which I don't think you're gonna like very, very much here, and that's the fact that last year the New York Giants wide receivers, they were ranked 30th last year in yards after the catch. You barely have anyone on the perimeter to help Danny Derps, so you needed receiver help. You need receiver help.
Yep. That's what we need.
I think what the Giants really need is a quarterback who knows how to put one foot in front of the other and keep doing it.
I knew that was coming.
He's fine. He's fine.
Danny Dimes was terrible last year, so it doesn't matter how many freaking receivers you have. He went 1-5 at the beginning of the season, including losing to Dallas 40-0 on that opening game. I'm sorry. I think JJ McCarthy would be better than Danny Dimes for day one.
I would be better than Danny Dimes. That is not in question. But we need a number one wide receiver. I don't think McCarthy's the answer.
Where he's got the pieces around him for him to thrive. New York, the Giants don't have that right now. Neither do we.
But this isn't. But we're not doing what we're not sending people to the best place. We're picking. The idea was to pick who you think the best player for that pick is, and that's what I thought the best player was. Ideally, you're probably trading out of that spot and trying to get a King's ransom if he's there and somebody wants to take him. Maybe, I don't know, but
Sean would rather go as long as in the later round, wouldn't you?
Exactly. You bring it's a very good point. That Ollie. Yeah, that's exactly what I would do.
Who was it that went bonus at 12? David.
Yeah.
So does anyone agree with that pitch?
I agree with
Weirdly,
I
actually think it's not actually a bad pick, to be honest. But in the sense that I can see why the pick would be made. I can see why.
He's the same age as Zach Wilson.
Who's probably better?
It's fine. Don't worry about that. Listen, this narrative that when you're a bit old coming out of the draft, you're not going to get any better.
There's being old, and there's being a he could probably get a senior citizen card for his local bus.
No,
for his local bus.
I don't buy into that. He's a refined character, is what I would say. His age is going to be one of his strengths, not his weaknesses.
Zach Wilson played for BYU.
I just personally can't justify Bo Nix in the first round.
Can we not have that?
Nah, to be fair, I don't.
He's not a couple of years younger than Oliver himself.
Can you not see the grey in my little beard? Not really beard, but hair I have here. Exactly, old. He's old.
I mean, we
That's called being a Browns fan.
took Stetson Bennett at 25, so you know.
Yeah, but not to be your
let's
long term starting quarterback. Do you know what I mean? You took him as to just be a backup for a couple of years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't hate the pick,
but it's not just the age. Don't get me wrong.
I personally wouldn't go for him.
Like, it's not the age that's the biggest thing. It's the fact that I just don't think he's a great quarterback. I mean, do you know what I mean? His average depth of target at college was 5 or 6 yards lower than everyone else's. You know, and I know people will say that was the scheme.
Is that not more?
Again, you can say it's the scheme, but at the end of the day, it's still that's all we can go off. So he's not shown that he's able to, you know, do more than that really. And I just, from what I've heard and what I've seen of people that saw him at the Senior Bowl, he didn't stand out at all. And you know, if he's not showing anything there as well, I don't see how you can justify, you know, the first round selection on him.
I don't think he's a first round quarterback, but I would love him in the second. Love him.
I wouldn't mind that as much. See, I wouldn't mind that. Team taking a shot on him in the second, that's fair enough. But I'd just try. No, not the first rounder for me. We also talked about.
I mean, obviously, I was going to say, obviously mentioned Bo Nix at the pick 12. I know we've had a lot of conversations about from last week about Jaden Daniels versus Drake May, and how are you feeling about us taking Jaden Daniels at 3? Is it sort of something that you don't mind, or I can't remember what we even said from last time, whether it's you or Carl who rated it.
Jaden Daniels, it was DJ that wanted Drake May, but I did say as a precursor that I would be happy with either of the two. Because you know, the quarterback position is the most important position. We don't have one. Yes, Jacoby Brissett is going to be our bridge quarterback. All I'll say is this though: if we get Drake May, you sit him for a year because his mechanicals, and his footwork, he needs still a little bit polishing up on. Jaden Daniels for me is the only one, bar Caleb Williams, who I can actually see starting. Because he has that elusiveness, he has that sort of, he is a difference maker. When New England don't have the weapons on our board, who have we got? Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, KJ Osborne. You're not pulling up any trees at receiving course. So what do? You elevate the quarterback position, and you get Jaden Daniels in. He can make stuff happen. We have a problem with getting separation, but what Jaden Daniels could do is get out of the pocket and scramble on the run, and that will actually give us a little bit more time to open up, but only a small amount. But no, Jaden Daniels, I think is perfect. The only thing I have a little bit of a concern about is he has a very slender figure. He has a very slim figure. So if he gets hit in the NFL, how's he going to take those sorts of How's he going to take that sort of punishment? So that's the only thing that worries me about him. But his passing overall, I really don't really like, and he does remind me a bit of Lamar Jackson. And we were screaming for this. We were screaming for Lamar Jackson back in 2018. You know, we stupidly traded up and got a tackle, which was absolutely pointless. So let's not let lightning strike twice here. If we do end up with Jaden Daniels.
Brill. So I suppose, obviously, does anyone want to share any other sort of feelings that they have on the draft? Any sort of picks that they particularly liked? Any picks they particularly hated?
I want to ask you, Sam. How do you feel about Jared Verse going to the Rams?
I mean, for me, that's our main. That's who I think we should be going. We should be going for an edge rusher, no matter what in this draft. I know, obviously, losing Aaron Donald wasn't particularly it was a complete disaster, to be honest. But at the end of the day, you know, we have got players in that position. I think having a very good edge rusher makes a complete difference in how you run your defense, and putting pressure on the quarterback is sort of something that you need to do. And me personally, I wouldn't go Jared Verse. I'm not against the pick, but I prefer Latu. I really want the Rams to go out and just get Latu. I think he's the most ready for the NFL. Obviously, I know there's the concerns around his back injury, but when have we ever had problems with having players with back injuries? We've got Stafford at the moment who's working with a neck injury, or has had a neck injury in the past. So, yeah, I don't see it being an issue. If he wasn't ready to go, he wouldn't be playing. So, for me, yes, it's a concern, but it's one that can be managed. And I think he's the most ready. So, for me, I prefer Latu over Verse, but I'm not against the Verse pick.
I suppose I should probably respond to David calling me out for his pick for Olu Fashanu. Obviously, I mean, the way the board was falling, it got to a point where I thought, wow, he's actually going to fall to the Ravens at 30, which, and I could have done a whole spiel about how much I love him, which is, I mean, he's arguably, for me, the best left tackle prospect in the draft. He's one of the best pass protecting left tackles to come out of college in the last 10 years, according to, most, you look at PFF and things like that. When you look at the grades, his run blocking is not as good as some of the other prospects, but I think as a left tackle, the what I look for the most is can you pass protect, and he's one of the best, that I've seen come out in the last 10 years. So obviously he won't fall to 27. I'll be absolutely shocked if that happens, and that's why I was getting quite annoyed the more that he fell, and the closer it got to my pick.
Okay, so Fashanu fell to 27 to the Bucks, right? So you just said, you've just underlined that he is the best left tackle prospect you got. So why won't the Jets take him then? Aaron Rodgers is coming back from a torn Achilles. You want to make sure that left tackle spot is secure, so that doesn't happen again.
I would have, yeah.
And this is where I go to.
I'd have taken it.
This is where I go to Brock Bowers. Okay, if you look down the board, you could probably see there's a lot of cute quarterbacks, receivers. There's going to be Joe Alt's going to go. I think the top 9 is all pretty much secure. If the Jets end up taking Fashanu, the offensive tackle, I cannot see a position where. I think Brock Bowers could fall in the late teens here, and this is where I can see it happening here. The Cincinnati Bengals, they don't really have a lot of positions. I took Byron Murphy the second because they need defensive tackle position, but they don't have tight end help. Can you imagine Brock Bowers with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase? That's a combination you don't want to deal with. No defense wants to deal with. No, I
don't. As a Browns fan, no.
So I could personally, if the Jets don't take Brock Bowers, I could see Bowers fall into the late teens, maybe even the early 20s.
I personally think 15 at the Colts would be the lowest that he'll fall, because there's been a lot of talk about the Colts actually looking to trade up to maybe try and go and get him. Personally, I wouldn't see him going past the Colts. Maybe that's more because I'm hoping that he doesn't go past the Colts, and I don't want him to end up at the Bengals. But I'd be shocked if he falls past the Colts. And I know obviously I didn't pick him for the Colts; he wasn't available at the Colts. But I don't think he'll fall past the Colts.
I want to see if Ollie can say the word Colts one more time.
Colts.
I think I'm actually betting you can prop bet over under 12.5 picks or whatever. I think that's Brock Bowers. I'm taking yours. I think he's going to slide. I think it's a combination of things. Just the history of tight ends first years in the NFL. I think he's going to be a great NFL player. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think he's an immediate impact player, more than likely, and take it from a team that took a tight end at 4 overall. I just think it's going to scare off some people. But I think the Colts. I think that's a good call, Ollie. We'll see.
When you guys took a tight end at 4, he was a wide receiver in all but name. That was. I guess the consensus that you were going to, and you don't take a tight end in the first round unless they're from Iowa. That's just a given fact, I think, at this point. Iowa builds the best tight ends.
I mean, I still have hope for Pitts. I mean, we all seem to forget that he almost broke Mike Ditka's 40-year-old record of most receiving yards. He just wasn't catching football, and he's been hurt. I mean, it just sucks. But There was also, when you look at the people that went after him, I always start crying.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase.
Anyway.
Anyway.
I suppose that's a really nice segue into the final section, in terms of obviously looking back at what you could have had. But on the theme of what about your teams, what's the one thing your team can do this weekend that would make you either completely lose the plot with rage, or you would just be sat there in utter sheer joy?
I'll go on this. I'll go first. So, as far as the Lions go, I think what we've shown so far, what Brad Holmes has shown so far, is he's willing to be aggressive. If you like something, if you like someone, he'll go and get them. Not necessarily whatever the cost, because there's always a cost to everything, and he won't go over it. But he's always been willing to be aggressive, and I think for me, just as a Lions fan, I think don't just sit there and be passive and see what falls, because this year we don't have the capital from the Stafford Goff trade to play with and all that sort of stuff. Last year was our last year having luxury picks. So I think this year, like I say, for me as a Lions fan, it's just a case of, I guess, being aggressive still, but not being silly. I think for something that'd make me rage if we took, I don't know, like if we traded up and got a quarterback, I'd be angry, a little bit angry with that one. If we, I don't know, I think maybe a linebacker, I think cornerback and defensive end are two of the ones that early on, if you're not addressing them early on, and if we walk away from this without bolstering the depth on the O-line, I'd be really upset.
I'll follow you on purely because you mentioned trading up for a quarterback, and that's definitely going to be mine. What that would make my head explode is if we trade up for McCarthy, which is something that's been talked about. I know I've said that I don't want McCarthy, and I wouldn't if I had a choice, but if we happen to take him at 6 because he's there, I'm happy to be proved wrong. If I'm wrong, we end up with a quarterback for the next 10 years. If I'm right, we'll probably be back somewhere near that pick in a couple of years anyway and looking at another quarterback. So, but trading up, like what we'd end up having to give away to get up to take a quarterback that I don't like higher than he should be going, that would just make me want to jump out the window, I think. And something that would make me extremely happy would be taking a Dundee at 6 and Bo Nix somewhere in the second. That would be a perfect draft night for me. I would be draft a couple of nights. So yeah, that would be where I'd go.
So for me, again, I echo what Sean's saying regarding of JJ and McCarthy. If we end up taking them in 3, I will probably have no laptop and no microphone. They will all get smashed to pieces. I would lose it if that was to happen, but I just think you're in a position there. So you were Drake Mayo, Jane Daniels. You can't fob this one. You know, you really, really can't. And the one thing that would absolutely excite me, it won't be in the first round, but it all depends if this player is sitting at the top of the second round, and that is the wide receiver out of Georgia, Lam McConkey. I want this guy so badly. We have botched the receiver position. I don't know how many drafts now, and this is the guy. He's the most polished receiver out of absolutely everyone in the draft. He has a little bit of injury history, but not bothered by that. This guy is just fantastic in all his route running, and it's someone that we've been dying and needing for since Randy Moss, really. And the other thing that would wind me up, really, is if the Steelers once again grab another receiver, because they just somehow nail the receiver position in the draft every single time. That winds me up more than anything else. So, yeah.
Oh, what if they trade out of 3?
Well, we trade out of 3.
What happens if you trade out of 3?
We're only going to take the biggest amount on the board, and I think whatever Minnesota give us, what is it? The 2 first rounds this year, a first round next year, and possibly like a second round in 2026, maybe. I don't think I'd even accept it. I wouldn't even challenge it. The only way I challenge it is if you give us Justin Jefferson on top of all of that. That's the only thing I would do. But because we have all the leverage here. Minnesota, if you want your quarterback, if you want Drake May or Jaden Daniels, you need to pay a humongous premium for it. And I hope to God that they don't, because it could be another Herschel Walker situation. And we don't, and they don't want PTSD, and Vikings fans don't want PTSD all over again. So, if we did trade down, we're gonna want a massive haul for it. A massive haul. We're taking phone calls. That's according to what Boston sports reporters are saying. But I just don't see it. We're taking the quarterback at 3, regardless what gets thrown at us. Go on, Fletch.
Poor Jaden Daniels, he's sat, or Drake May, they're sat there in the green room. Minnesota have just given up the world to go and get him. It should be one of the best days of your life until you turn up in Minnesota and realise you've just got to play throw catch with yourself all season because you've got nobody there.
And they got
Yeah, they're not trading Justin Jefferson. No chance. There's no way.
I don't think they will.
No way. And they got Jordan Addison, who I think I think Jordan Addison's really good.
Oh no, and
if they were to trade any of them, it'd be Jordan Addison.
100%. But
I don't see that.
I'm not saying they ever would. Of course, I'd love to see Justin Jefferson out of the NFC North. That'd be great for me. But obviously, I don't think that at all. But I just think, imagine if you gave away Justin Jefferson and all of that just for Jaden Daniels to have to throw the ball to himself for a season. I just think it'd be hilarious.
I don't think that's happening.
If I was Jaden Daniels, I'd rather go to Minnesota than the Patriots. Sorry, Charles, to say that, but I just they're further along. They got a better team, so I think he'd probably be happy with that situation as long as they're only giving away picks.
They've got one of the best receivers in the game. Addison is a very, very good wide receiver too. They've got a top 8 tight end in TJ Hawkinson as well, and they've got a top 12 offensive line in the NFL as well. It's built primarily now for quarterbacks to go in, a plug-and-play quarterback. If they want Jaden Daniels, that Vikings team is going to go up to a whole different level.
Chapman, what do you think of what would be your rage and joy moments from this draft?
Well, I think we need to get an anger management after dark pod going as well for a couple of guys here. I wouldn't be angry. I've been around long enough to not get angry, and I'll even bring this up. I did not want Matt Ryan back in 2008. I wanted Glenn Dorsey out of LSU, and luckily we did not pick Glenn Dorsey, who was out of the NFL I think in 5 years, and we did pick Matt Ryan. So I can tell you, Sean, you never know. But I would say for me, I think we can't afford to go skill position player yet again in the top 10. It'd be really nice to I really hope, I think all indications are that Raheem Morris and Jimmy Lake and Fontenot are going to be really keying in on defensive players in this draft, and that's why I really hope we trade down, because it is so top heavy with offensive players. Now, if Joe Alt's there at 8, I kind of got to be honest, I wouldn't be mad for them to take Joe Alt, because Jake Matthews is getting old. He's been great, but he is old, and we're going to need to replace him. And as we all know, you just need offensive line that, and they're hard to get. And Joe Alt seems like he's going to be a 10, 12-year starter. So, but I'd be really I mean, you can't be mad about getting a Dunze if he's there, or Neighbors probably more likely a Dunze, but we just can't take another wide receiver at 8. We just can't. So we need to go defense. Honestly, I just hope we pick the right one. That's what would make me joyful. And maybe if we trade back, we might be in the market for one of those cornerbacks. So I feel like it's actually really, the Falcons are in a really good position. If somebody falls, and we're not going to try to take a lot, because we don't want to trade too far down. So it's a day 2 pick, possibly to get to 8. So that's the only problem is the people that probably want to trade up don't have day 2 picks. So it's a classic chicken and egg thing there. I also just want to say I really hope Ladd McConkey does not go to the Patriots, because nothing would make me sadder than having to watch.
Put it this way: someone just text me.
I think he suits the Patriots.
Text me.
There's just something about him.
Just because he's a white wide receiver? No, there was other white wide receivers that played before.
Oh, right.
And other. I'm sorry, guys.
Just brushed over the threshold. Well done.
Surely it should be. Surely it should. I mean, we've got the two of the better wide receivers at the moment. Surely he should come to the Rams if anyone. I mean, we love a wide.
Here's the thing though. We're hoping and screaming for McConkey in round 2, okay? But you know for a fact, if we still have Belichick here, you know, if we still have Belichick and he was doing the drafting, he would have traded back for 8 mid-round picks and a box safety. He would do that.
I mean, me personally, I do not think that he'll leave the first round. I think he's going in the first round personally. And I think if especially if you're a Patriot, if you're the Patriots and you need a wide receiver and you want him, you're going to have to trade into that Bills pick around there, that late first round, I think, in order to be able to get him. Because I think there's too many teams who could do with a wide receiver that isn't one of those top acclaimed top 3. So I think, you got that second level of McConkey, Mitchell, Xavier Worthy. I think he'll drop into the second quite. But those sort of areas I think could be quite interesting. So I think if you're going to get him, you're going to have to trade
ends
up.
Up going to the Chiefs, I will hang myself.
I think not an overreaction.
There's a clip for the socials.
That is that's normal thing to say. I think one thing though is last year's draft taught me how little we all know about the draft. Last year's draft completely threw so many of us for a loop that I think I've tried to a certain extent to distance myself from a lot of, I've not done many mock drafts or anything like that, just because everything I thought I knew last year, I realised this year I don't know. And it's always important to remember that hindsight is 20/20. A lot of the things we think are great right now, we're going to look back in 5 years and try and edit out previous episodes and try and, but once what we've said now is on the internet forever. So, but I think one thing, going back to what Chapman said about not wanting Matt Ryan, I was watching a video earlier today of Texans fans stood there complaining about the JJ Watt pick and how it was one of the worst things they could have possibly done at 11. They should have, if they wanted him, yeah, he's good, but they should have traded way back because he'd have probably been available very, very late end of round 1. And I think just what an interesting look back into how, nothing's changed. Nothing has changed in all this time.
I mean, from my perspective, I'm happy to I'm happy to just understand and let Snead and McVay do whatever they want. They seem to understand the draft better than anyone, and understanding what picks they want. So as long as they don't trade out of the first round, because I want to be able to actually experience a first round pick for the Rams. As long as they don't do that, I'll be happy. But yeah, I think as you say, Fletch, we've learned from plenty now that just because you go in the first round doesn't mean you're going to be the next best thing, and just because you go in the 5th round means you're not going to be anything. It's all the picks are. I mean, look at the prime example. Brock Purdy is Mr. Irrelevant. So yeah, I think anything can happen in these drafts.
Mr. Irrelevant.
But if you go past the 3rd round, more than likely you're not going to be anything. you're kind of picking out the outliers there.
Oh yeah,
come on,
but and every year there's a couple of outliers. I mean, but there'll be someone who we're all sat there on. Look at Brett Bowers or someone similar, right? We look at last year. Everyone predicted Will Levis to be a top 5 pick, and there he is sat at the end of the day regretting putting mayo in his coffee because that has tanked him to day 2, and all of that starts every year. There is. There's someone that we all think's a top pick that falls and falls and falls, and then there's someone who we don't realise, never thought of, and all of a sudden, in it halfway through the season, this guy's the best thing ever at his position. It's really funny just to kind of watch that.
Puka Nacua, prime example.
Yeah,
5th round.
I mean, look at how he took Kyron Williams the year before, 5th round as well. So yeah, it's so unpredictable. But they're as Chapman has said, I think they are the minority in those later round picks. But yeah, anything can happen, guys. It's been absolutely fantastic. We've had another exceptionally long episode, but this was a special episode with us doing the mock draft. Again, just a reminder, we're available on on all channels, so Apple, Spotify, the usual. You can catch us on Twitter, and don't forget we do have the Twitter space on Thursday for the draft. Lads, it's been brilliant, and we'll see you all next week to discuss what has happened in the actual draft and what our teams have done and all the joys of the draft. But for now, goodbye.